So let's bring on Bruce Feldman, my guy, college football analyst, covers the sport for Fox. Bruce in his just awesome family room there, looking sharp as ever. New haircut, ready for the season, Bruce. What's the excitement level for you, Texas, Ohio State?
Can't wait, Jason. I mean, this is the best week one we've ever had in college football. You have a 1 versus 2 matchup, as obviously you remember. Texas was knocked out of the playoff last year by the Buckeyes. And now you have the Arch Manning factor. You have new coordinators at Ohio State on both sides of the ball, including Matt Patricia, who's never really coached in college football, and now he's got to defend Arch. That's huge. You got 2 other top 10 matchups later that weekend. I mean, it's.
All right, let me just quickly ask about this Matt Patricia. He is the rocket scientist, if memory serves, from his days in New England, Detroit. Matt Patricia, kind of a divisive figure, but as you said, he's had all off season to prepare for Arch. He's also got maybe the best defensive player in the country in Downs. I think they kind of bottle up the Texas offense here, Bruce. So what's your read on that one?
It's going to be interesting to see what kind of answers does he have. Does he do a lot of what Jim Knowles, who was the defense coordinator last year, did such a good job for Ohio State? As you mentioned, Caleb Downs, their safety. I think he's the best defensive player in the country. He's just a unique chess piece because he's so smart in what they can do with him. They have 2 elite linebackers who are really special athletes in Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. The D-line is mostly new, right? They have talent there, but it's new guys. Mm-hmm. The part that I think I'm most curious about in this game is it's not just Arch. It's 4 new starters on the offensive line. You lost a top 10 pick who's now with the Saints at left tackle. It's a lot of new guys, and it's a tough road environment. I mean, we'll see how Patricia does, long term this season. It reminds me a little bit of a similar situation Texas faced early last year on the road when they went to Michigan. Wink Martindale, who hadn't been in college, he stepped in at Michigan, and it was a mismatch. Sark versus Wink Martindale early in the year. Sark's still there. He has a more mobile quarterback, albeit less experienced than Quinn Ewers. And it's also a new offensive line, though. And that's the part where I'm fascinated to see how Arch does behind a new group that is going to be feeling its way out in a very hostile setting.
Let me ask you, Bruce, are you surprised that Arch did not throw a pass at all in the SEC championship game or the 2 playoff games? They had a couple running packages for him, but not one pass. To me, to an outsider, that's kind of a lack of confidence in him getting it done in a big spot. Or was there a dynamic with Quinn Ewers that maybe I don't understand?
No, I just think it's in the moment. Look, when mid-season Georgia comes in there and they are slaughtering Texas, they bench Ewers, give Arch a chance. Arch gave him a spark for a second, and then Georgia just overwhelmed him too. I think I wouldn't read too much into anything that happened last year with that Texas team. Remember, the year before, Texas came very close to playing for the national title. They lost to Washington and Michael Penix. It wasn't like Ewers is a scrub. Ewers has played a lot. He operated well at times in the offense. And I think it was just about like, hey, let's make sure when Arch is really ready, he's ready to go. And I think having a full off season to kind of grow into this position and get ready, I think it's probably ideal for them. But I wouldn't. You can always second guess play callers on both sides of the ball. I wouldn't. Steve Sarkisian's as good as there is in college football, especially in like third down stuff and different things. Obviously, you can hindsight is 2020. I'm sure there's a bunch of calls in that game Sark would have loved to have back. But credit to Jim Knowles, he had answers.
Yeah. Let's go to Miami, Notre Dame. Obviously, a rich history between these two. I'm on the Irish here, but there are some questions about Notre Dame at quarterback. Their defense is stacked. Love the running back. Where are you on this matchup?
Yeah, it's not just the running back you're talking about. Jeremiah Love is fantastic. That running back room is deep behind him. J.D. Price, they have some young backs they really like. But again, C.J. Carr, he's a talented passer, but this is his first big test, right? And they're going to Miami, and this is a completely new defense. And I'm not saying how it's going to go for Matt Patricia or not, but in Corey Heatherman, you have a much more experienced college defensive coordinator who's stepping in. Miami was awful on defense last year. They were explosive on offense with Cam Ward. I think Miami's going to be much improved this year because of the defensive side of the ball. And I think everything I've heard out of Coral Gables has been very positive on how Corey Heatherman has changed things. I think this is a tricky spot for the Irish. They're talented, as you said, but again, new quarterback, that place can be pretty loud. It's not the old Orange Bowl, but ask players on the Notre Dame team that got blown off the field like 48-7, like when Manny Diaz was there. That place can get loud in the right spot, and I expect it to later this weekend. And again, Carson Beck is now the starter at Miami. There's been a lot of positive reports coming out of there from the coaches I know there. They have a really good offensive line. I would not at all be surprised if Miami beats them this weekend.
All right, but I got to ask, Bruce, you're like the coaches, positive on Carson Beck. Have you ever got preseason negative stuff from coaches on a quarterback? I mean, Beck is...
Yeah, definitely. You definitely do, but those are the things you shy away from bringing up and saying, oh, yeah, the coaches are kind of skittish about this guy. I mean, maybe some of the stuff you talk about around it may come up, but there's definitely a bunch of stuff where you end up in the back of your head. And sometimes you talk about it, we have a podcast where we'll talk a little bit more about the stuff I might be concerned about at Ohio State or the stuff I might be concerned about on this team or that team. But, you kind of balance all the information you get.
So does Beck lose the game with a pick or a strip sack fumble? How does he blow this one? I just don't have a lot of faith in the guy. And this is coming from somebody last year at this time who was like, oh, yeah, Carson Beck, he's got to be the favorite to go number 1 in the draft.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't get so over your skis on the draft component of this because that's what people thought. And then, what happened? Brock Bowers went to the NFL and Ladd McConkey went to the NFL, and the receiving group beneath him wasn't very good, and he pressed. I mean, right now, he's got a really good offensive line. He's got an elite running back in Jordan Lyles, and they have a lot of young talent at receiver. So, again, I know this. The Ravens offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, who had Beck early on, was very effusive in how smart he is, how quick his release is, and all those things. I mean, look, give a lot of credit also to Shannon Dawson, Miami's OC, because going into last year, the NFL had a 5th-round grade on Cam Ward. Where did he end up getting drafted a couple of months ago? 1st overall. I'm not saying it was all Shannon Dawson, but Shannon Dawson, the offense coordinator, knows what he's doing, and I would expect Carson Beck will have a pretty big year in this system. Well,
that's good insight. Let's go to the other matchup, LSU-Clemson. Another bet that I made was Clemson undefeated regular season. Obviously, if they clear this hurdle, they're favored the rest of the way. I'm just curious. This is a battle of these quarterbacks who everybody seems to like for the draft next year, Klubnik and Nussmeier. Where are you on these two heading into this season?
I like them. I think they're both really smart quarterbacks. They don't have like great size. Nussmeier's more of a gunslinger, coach's kid. I think both guys are really good leaders. They see the field really well. The part that we need to see a big step up from them is, especially with Garrett Nussmeier, is how they play against ranked teams. You look at the numbers, they were not good. Neither guy was really good, but Garrett really struggled. And now, a little like Arch Manning, he's got an entirely rebuilt offensive line. They had 4 offensive linemen who played in the Senior Bowl, including, the Patriots' top 5 pick, Will Campbell. So now you got a rebuilt offensive line. That place is going to be even more hostile at night than what you're going to have in Columbus. And unlike the Buckeyes, this defensive line Clemson has, Peter Woods was one of my highest guys on my freaks list. I think he'll be a top 5 pick. He's a 310-pound defensive tackle who runs 4.85. They have like 3 other guys on the defense who I think will be top 40 picks next year. And then they have another guy, Sammy Brown, who, when he's able to come out for the draft, I think he's going to go really high. He's a linebacker who can run like the wind. Tom Allen's the new defensive coordinator. I think this is a big upgrade from what Clemson had on defense last year. I'm a little nervous about the Clemson pick now because now I see that you're on the bandwagon. They were my national team. And I'm like, oh, God. Well, as soon as you said it, my eyes kind of rolled back.
I'm not going to lie. Like, I've been down on Dabo for a couple years now since he refused to go to the portal. And then you came on my podcast and you were like, bro, this defensive line is filthy. I'm worried for Nussmeier in the opener. I think he could be under some pressure. So you have Clemson as number 1 in your college football playoff seedings, huh?
I do. A couple of things. As I mentioned, Tom Allen, everything I've heard, has gotten the defense much more in sync. They were like out of it last year. They had some players, some inexperience in key spots. As I said, now Sammy Brown is a second-year player. He was a true freshman playing a lot last year in a key role. The other big thing is when Clemson was winning national titles, they had elite receiver play. That's when, even right before, when the program started to get closer, when Taj Boyd was putting up big numbers, they had elite receivers. They dropped off in the last few years. The receiver room is back closer to where it used to be. Bryant Westco is a big-time guy. They have 3 guys there who are really big athletic playmakers. I like how Klubnik has continued to mature. He showed he has some playmaking ability. We saw that at times last year. And again, they did go in the portal a little bit, or they have a good defensive end they took from Purdue. I feel like everybody got a good player from Purdue and they were awful last year, but still I like where Clemson is. Now I would caution people on this. Like last year, Clemson got blown out by an SEC team in the opener by Georgia. LSU lost their opener. Brian Kelly's never won an opener since he's been at LSU. Clemson made the playoff even without, you can stumble out of the gate and still have a really good season. The thing to watch for me on the LSU side, I think LSU is really talented. They got a ton of freaky athletes in the receiver room for Nussmeier. But Brian Kelly's put so much in this game. He's put Clemson Tiger Paws all over the facility just to kind of reinforce how big of a deal this game is. You lose the game, you do worry about, does some of the air come out of the balloon and how do you bounce back from it? They have not a big opponent the next week, but a couple of weeks later they have Florida, and Florida beat them last year.
Yeah. If anybody watching, he has his predictions on the screen for the playoff. 7 is Iowa State. Now, was that before or after their win over Kansas State?
No, that was before.
Really?
That was before. Look, Matt Campbell's a really good coach. When I spoke to him for a while this summer, one of the things that he stressed is, 5 years or so ago, they had the best season in Iowa State history. They finished number 9. Then the culture of the program kind of got away from them a little bit for a variety of reasons. He was telling me and talking to some of the players inside the program, he's got Rocco Becht, Anthony Becht's son, who is just a gamer. He's a really tough kid. He finds a way to make plays in the clutch. He's just got like kind of a winner quality to him. And he ended up beating out an Elite 11, higher ranked recruit, JJ Cole, who ended up transferring out for the job and hung on to the job. And I think it's a big deal. Like he talked about how much Rocco Becht has helped in reestablishing the culture there. You saw it last week when he trusted his guy on 4th and 3 in a tough spot with a little over 2 minutes left. He went for it and it paid off. And again, Matt Campbell over the last couple of years has been one of the most conservative coaches when it comes to going for it on 4th down. And he was like, scrap that. I trust my guys to come through. They did. I'm not saying they're running the table, but I think they're going to win the Big 12, and I do think they'll be a playoff team.
I don't see Texas Tech in there anywhere, Bruce. That's my long shot to make the playoff. But I do see Arizona State. We love that team, quarterback, coach. Texas Tech, any thoughts? Can they sneak in?
I mean, they spent a ton of money on the portal. They got a big budget. They've upgraded on both lines. Now, Quentin Joyner, who was at USC last year, really their most talented running back, as we reported, a couple of days ago, he's out for the season with an injury. That's going to hurt them because now they have two largely unproven backs who are going to have to shoulder the load. We'll see how this is going to go. I mean, I think they'll be pretty good. I don't know if to me, the gap between all these teams in the Big 12 is so close. I just think that there's nobody who has Ohio State, Penn State, LSU, Georgia kind of talent in this. It's not even close. So in here, it's very bunchy. It's like, which quarterback do you trust the most and which team can just kind of go on a roll? Last year, Arizona State, I felt like they fed off Cam Scadaboo's energy, and they went from being the team everybody thought was at the bottom to winning the whole conference, and then almost knocking Texas out of the playoff. So I like Kenny Dillingham. I think he's a great fit there. I think they're going to be the other team in the playoff, but you never know with the Big 12. The teams you think are going to be really good just bottom out, and the teams you don't expect much from him. They end up surging.
All right, last one real quick. Bryce Underwood is the new quarterback at Michigan. This is the kid who got like a ton of money, right? Wasn't he heavily recruited by some donor? He flipped from LSU to Michigan. What's the status on the Wolverines here?
Yeah, he's going to be the guy. I mean, he's 6'4", 230, can really run. He was the top-ranked high school quarterback in the country last year. He's got, high-level playmaking skills. Everybody down there is excited about him, but he's still a true freshman quarterback. The thing that would give me pause about him is he's a true freshman quarterback, and there is not a ton of elite talent around him on offense. He does not have anything close to what Penn State has in the running back room. He has nothing close to what Julian Sayin at Ohio State has from the receiver room. The O-line is not what it used to be when J.J. McCarthy was playing behind it. Then they had like one of the best O-lines in the country. I think right now it's pretty good, but I don't know if it's any more than that. Last year it wasn't even that. And by the way, last year they had Kalel Mullings, who they leaned on and really won some games for them. That guy's gone. I think they're more of an 8-4 kind of team. I'm fascinated to see how he does. You have a new offensive coordinator, Chip Lindsey, comes in. I don't expect them to throw it all over the yard, but they couldn't pass it at all last year. I think they will be able to throw it some because you have a guy who last year they wanted Alex Orji, who is like similar size, really athletic, probably not as instinctive of a runner, and struggled as a passer. And they did not have difference makers outside. Colston Loveland was a really good tight end, but he got banged up. It's hard for me to look at Michigan and say, oh, yeah, they're anywhere near as good as Penn State or Ohio State. I don't feel like that right now about them.
Yeah. All right. Bruce Feldman, Fox Sports, great stuff. He's the king of college football. Enjoy the opener, Bruce. Everybody will be watching you and following you online. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Jason.